What's going on, guys? James here, back with another video for you. Girls been messaging me, leaving comments, different forums and stuff that I'm in, just wanting to kind of go over some of the questions that they've been having. A lot of it has to do with, they're starting to shoot their bows more because in Ohio it's the 10th right now. Season actually opens on the 26th. So what we're getting into is we're getting down to the wire, and they're pulling their bows out probably for the first time this year, going, I haven't changed anything since last year, I should be good. And they're finding that that's not the case. And I've seen it time and time again. You put the bow in a case, put the case in a shed or your closet, or tuck it up under your bed and don't touch it. Next deer season rolls around, you pull it out and you're like, I haven't changed anything, should be good. You go out and take a couple shots with it and you just discover that you're not hitting very consistently. And there's a couple reasons for why that happens. And the biggest thing is you're going to notice on some of the factory strings is there's an excessive amount of stretch that takes place in these strings, either within the first 250 shots or in the lifetime that you have the strings on the bow. You're going to have a lot of stretch and peep rotation, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse the longer you keep those strings on. And I've even ran into string issues when it comes to the custom strings. I use America's Best bowstrings on all my stuff, and even, their platinum strings are probably some of the best on the market, and no way, shape, or form am I, sponsored by them, but, they have a product that I believe in. A couple other good brands are Rogue, Gas. I mean, they all make a pretty decent product, but, you're going to have stretch when it comes to strings and cables, and the longer that you have a set of cables and string on your bow, the more likely they are to stretch. A bow that I've had in the past, I bought a set of strings in August, put them on, and shot the strings in, expecting a little bit of, stretch, wear in, whatever you want to call the initial phase, but it didn't happen. It took a whole year and a half before I noticed the peep wasn't rotating fully around, and it was messing with my sight picture a little bit. So, I started rotating strands around the peep to try to bring it back square. And what happened was I had orange and black that were twisted together. Orange always seems to stretch a little more than any other color for some reason, which has kind of changed the way that I buy bowstrings. And if I'm getting custom colors, I always make sure that I keep it one solid color, because in that case it all comes off the same spool. When it all comes off the spool, it all stretches at the same interval. You're not having one half of your string stretch at a different interval than the other half, because you can't really null and void that out. You're always going to be fighting against yourself, because if you add twist to the string, you're making both of them shorter when one's really 3/16 of an inch longer than the other one. I mean, you're not ever going to make the orange one shorter. So that's the way I changed to buying bowstrings and doing it the new way, and everything is always one solid color. You see behind me, this Bear Kuma has green and buckskin colored string. I haven't actually replaced the strings on this yet. It's been my ASA target archery bow all spring. It's shot really well for me. But just to get into what this video is actually about, tuning. From time to time, you get into different issues. So you pull your bow out of your case, you take it out back, you start flinging some arrows, getting comfortable, and you really start focusing You make 3 or 4 really good shots, but all your arrows are impacting high and left. So you move your sight, you're like, okay, maybe it's just the sight got moved, or however, but you're noticing that you move your sight and nothing's changing. You're still hitting high and left, and it's actually getting worse, and you're moving your sight and it's still getting worse. It's not fixing any of your problems. What you might have going on is a timing issue with your cams. This is a dual hybrid cam bow. When you get into timing them, it's got a yoke on the top, and you can either add or take out twists. I prefer to add because you're twisting with the string that's already there, but half a twist in, full twist in, half a twist on one side, half a twist on the other side, just to kind of try to keep everything even. But if it's not a timing issue and your draw stops are impacting the cables at the same time, what you could be having is a knocking point issue. So if you're hitting high, you could be having an issue where you're knock low when your arrow's not sitting on your rest. Your arrow could be sitting on there. So knocking point is here, and your knock high, your arrow's gonna be sitting like this. Knock low, you're gonna be sitting like this. And you can see that on the target. If you shoot and your arrows are not level with the ground, they're either doing this or they're doing this, could mean that you have a knock high, knock low issue at rest. And then the third tuning issue that I see constantly is bows aren't center shot correctly to start the process of tuning a bow, and then once they think they're center shot and then they put them through paper, you're tuning the bow to the shooter as much as you need to tune the shooter to the bow. And a lot of people don't understand what that means. So if I take a bow from somebody and I say, I'll tune it, I'm tuning it for me. So if I draw my bow and I'm standing at full draw and I shoot through paper and it bullet holes, I can take that bow and hand it to the person that it belongs to. They can do the exact same thing I just did, and 9 times out of 10 it will not bullet hole. The way that I shoot a bow is not the same as anybody else, and that goes for everybody across the board. You don't shoot a bow the way I do. You don't shoot a bow like your best friend. Everybody has little things that are different that make each way we shoot unique. And for me, I use a kisser button. I drop my nose on the string. I don't have a lot of face pressure. My string my kisser button just kind of sits right on the corner of my mouth, and I don't really press into the side when I drop my nose on the string. I'm not pressing, it just kind of sits there and I can feel it right on the tip of my nose. Because any kind of pressure or anything that you add to your string while you're at full draw is going to affect your accuracy. And of course, modern compound bows today, they're fast, they're accurate, and it doesn't take a whole lot for them to be inaccurate. So if you're holding your bow at full draw, and if you want to do this, by all means, it'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. If you hold your bow at full draw and you close your hand around the riser and you close your hand around the grip and you squeeze, you'll notice that the bow will cant one way or the other with however you grip the bow. Now, I did this exercise with somebody at a indoor 3D shoot just to show them the difference. I said, okay, so take your index finger and your thumb, and I said, and hold the bow right in the crease here, and just let it sit there. And they did. And I said, all right, now close your index finger around the riser and your thumb around it. And that's your grip. And these aren't holding the bow at all. So he did, and he took a few shots, and it was, he was doing pretty well, but, he could tell, or you could tell that it was the first time he'd ever shot a bow like this. So then I said, okay, so for the next part, I want you to hold the bow like I showed you, but then I want you to drop these fingers on the riser and I want you to put pressure with your middle finger on the riser. So you're gripping with these two fingers now. And as soon as those two fingers touched, the bow turned a little bit in his hand. And he shot a couple, and they were way off from the first group that he shot. Third thing, as you can see where this is going, I just had him do the next finger, and then finally the pinky. And you could see every time he would add a finger to the grip, the bow would change the way it was canted ever so slightly, but ever so slightly matters a lot when you're trying to be repeatable. When you're trying to do everything the exact same way each time you draw your bow back to shoot it, that means everything. If you change the slight pressure in your hand, if you change one finger gripping a little harder than your thumb, and you're pressing and your hand's doing this in between shots, you're not doing everything the same way. It's something I still struggle with. It's something that professional archers still struggle with. This is something that is always being worked on and always trying to, find an easier way to do things. But you have to be conscious of what you're doing shot to shot. Because you can tune the bow, you can have everything set up, timing's perfect, rest is perfect, knocking point, everything. But if you aren't doing the same thing every time, you're gonna still have issues with accuracy. So, for example, if you're, like I shoot with a kisser button, we'll just use me for the example. And I draw my bow, I'm aiming at the target, and the first time I shoot, my kisser button is up here in my mustache. Well, then I shoot and I don't hit what I'm aiming at. Well, the next arrow I put on and I draw, and my kisser button actually goes right into the corner of my mouth here, and I'm aiming and I bullseye what I'm aiming at, and I'm like, why didn't I do that the first time? You have to be conscious of every movement. So if I think that my kisser button is where it needs to be, but it's really over here in my mustache, but I can just feel the kisser button pushing the hair of my mustache into the corner of my mouth. It's something that's happened before in a situation where I really need to be accurate, and I can feel my mustache getting pushed into the corner, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm good. That's my kisser button right where it needs to be. It was about a half or a quarter of an inch high. So I was inaccurate on my shot. But so if you're shooting, and this is where I'll get into kind of the technical talk, if you will. If you're shooting your bow and you've maxed out your sight as far left as it'll go or as far right as it'll go, and you can't null out a left or right issue, it could be timing, it could be rest issues. If you're using a drop away, you could be having fletch contact with your cables. Really shooting it, taking it to a pro shop, having somebody watch you shoot behind you, seeing if your arrow's coming off and fishtailing off the bow. That's really what it's going to take to see what is causing your problems. They make a powder spray. I think it's something you can put on your boots actually, and you spray it on your rest and your cables and your whatever, and then you shoot an arrow, and it'll actually show you all the places your arrow's contacting your bow. So obviously you should see contact on your rest. You shouldn't see contact on your cables, your riser, anything out of the ordinary like that. So it's a good tool to use. So if you're maxed out and you're hitting left or right, it could be the fact your bow's not center shot correctly. That wherever you took your bow, Bass Pro, Field and Stream, Cabela's, any of the big box stores that have pro shops attached to them, you're getting what you pay for in a sense. Their idea is customer satisfaction. You're buying a bow, they set it up as quick as they can to try to make you happy, and they don't really spend a lot of time fine-tuning everything. So check your timing. Oh, it's close, it's good enough. New string, stretch, 250 shots, bring it back, the whole spiel. whoever really takes it back to Cabela's Bass Pro to have them finish putting it together. I know I've only bought one bow at a Bass Pro or a Field and Stream, and we didn't take it back. I've actually started doing a lot of work on my bow myself because I wasn't happy with the experience of these big box stores, and they just try to jam, you know, whatever product that they're being told to sell by corporate down your throat, and then hope to God you buy it and they can go home. So, but getting back to the tuning issues, if your bow's not center shot correctly and you're having left impact, right impact, high impact, low impact, could be the fact that your rest, so again, string and knock back here, front of the riser over here. If you're knock high or knock low, then you're going to launch your arrow this way or launch your arrow this way. It'll be flying through the air like this until it gnaws itself out and tries to fly straight. So coming off the bow, it might be doing this and then try to correct, and it might be doing this all the way to the target. To where, you know, if it's impacting like this or impacting like this into the target, your rest could be off and this would be straight, and I mean that's drastic, but your arrow could be pointing off to the left or off to the right, and then as you shoot it's coming off like this and it's porpoising like this through the air, trying to, you know, make itself fly straight, and that's what the vanes are doing. So the best thing that you can do for that is paper tuning, walk back tuning, bear shaft tuning, where, you know, you cut the vanes off and stand at 15 to 20 feet from your target, and you shoot through paper, and you're trying to shoot a perfect round bullet hole, no side tears or up and down tears. Once you achieve that, your arrow is flying straight off your bow, and now once you put fletchings on it, it's correcting any improper flight. And then once you put your broadhead on it, you're basically putting vanes on the front and vanes on the back, because your broadhead acts as another plane on your arrow shaft, and it's going to try to null out the plane on the front with the planes on the back and try to make it fly straight towards your target. So if your bow's not tuned, now this might be some science, if your bow's not tuned and you shoot a broadhead and it doesn't fly where you're aiming, it might be the fact your bow isn't tuned. I know, crazy, right? If you shoot a mechanical broadhead, it might mean that your bow's not tuned, but you're putting a band-aid on the issue. Because field points cover up non-tuned bows. If you want to know if your bow's tuned, put a fixed blade broadhead on your bow, go out to 20 yards and shoot it. If it doesn't impact close to where your field points do, your bow's not tuned. That's just the easy way to put it. I can take my broadheads right now, Magnus. I have the Magnus Black Hornet Sarah Razor in 125, and I have the Stinger in 125. And I have the Stinger Buzz Cut. They're on their way, but I bought them in 150. So, I'm shooting a lot of heavy point weight to try to get my FOC up where I want it 19-20%, which some people think that you're jumping on the bandwagon of this heavy arrow, high FOC kind of movement, but, you know, I tune my own equipment. I found the Ed Ashby arrow lethality study. That'll be a video for another day if you guys want to see it. We'll go through how I went about building my arrows, the channel that I actually used when I was going through this process. But I just kind of wanted to do a video. I got home from work and I got 5 or 6 emails about this. You can tune just about anything out. If you're high right, high left, and it goes for anything. But you need to make sure your stuff is tuned. We are, well, now it is September 11th. Um, one of the biggest tragedies happened ever on this day in American history. So I hope that everybody still remembers that we need to be united in this country. But yeah, any comments, questions, or concerns, um, don't be afraid to email me. My email will be in the description. Other than that, stay safe, go out, be in the outdoors, look out for each other, and shoot straight this fall. I hope everybody has some success. Don't be afraid to email me pictures. I always like seeing trophy photos. And be safe out there, guys. Thanks.